Thank you. I'm your host, Tim Starks, and with me is parent education expert Eileen Rayton. And we would like to welcome you to another segment of the Now and Future Parent. Eileen?
Thanks, Tim. In this series, we'll look at some of the primary issues parents face in raising their children. Parenting is a skill, but like all skills, it is acquired and can be developed and improved. The children on our program are 5-year-olds, but as we know, many of the ideas that apply to young children are applicable to children of any age. The topic of today's program is parental and child stress and how to manage it.
Thanks, Eileen. Now let's take a look at a scene in which a parent brings home stress from work.
Is that you, Steven?
Who else?
What's the matter with you?
I'm sorry. It's just that I've had a lousy day. There was a mistake on an order. I had to cover all day for it. I didn't get any of my own work done, and to top it off, the guy we just hired got sick and went home.
Do you want to have dinner later so you can relax?
Actually, I'm hungry.
Don't play with your food, Max.
Didn't you hear your mother? She told you not to play with your food. You're going to bed early tonight. In fact, you're going to bed right now. Go to your room. Now!
Stephen walked in reeling from an abrasive day at work. He took it out on Sharon and she called him on it. Later on at dinner, Max was innocently playing with her food, and Stephen blew up. Let's take a moment to think about the following questions. How did Stephen's stress influence his actions, and how did it affect Max? What could Stephen have done differently? And what would you have done if this was your child in the exact same situation? Okay, how did Stephen's stress influence his actions?
Stephen brought home all the stress from work.
Stephen overreacted, pure and simple. I mean, Max, she was just being a kid, and he let it out on her for absolutely no reason.
Stephen, do you think he may have overreacted with Max?
Max didn't do what she was told, and she was punished for it. What's wrong with that?
Well, in this situation, the reaction was way out of proportion to the misbehavior. Sometimes ignoring a behavior that's not hurting anyone will help it disappear.
But that's a different thing altogether. What if table manners are really important to the parent? I mean, some people grow up with those kinds of rules.
Yes, well, if this is an issue that's really important to the parents, they could have used a consequence. For instance, they could have asked Max to clean up the table, but if she continued to play with her food, then they could have said in a calm voice, "Oh, I see you're finished with dinner. You may be excused," and then take her plate away. Then at another time, when she's using appropriate table manners, they could compliment her.
Yeah, but whether the guy cares about table manners or not, I mean, the guy had a hard day at work. I mean, what's the deal here? I mean, the kid should behave at the dinner table, and if not, why should she have to irritate the parent any longer?
Yes, he did have a hard day at work, but Max had nothing to do with making it hard.
Not only that, but poor Max probably went to bed thinking that she was at fault for everything.
I think that's probably true. Children don't realize that when we speak or act harshly to them, that we may be responding to our own stress and not to what they did. For instance, Stephen's angry outburst was triggered more by his own hard day at work than by Max's behavior. We see this a lot in families where parental stress often has a negative impact on how we relate to our children.
When Stephen came home, Sharon, she recognized that he was bringing home all this stress from the job. But she had an idea, and she had made a suggestion that they put off dinner so that Stephen could relax. Does anybody think that was a good idea? Yeah.
I think Sharon did have the right idea. I'm a civil servant, and after dealing with the public all day long, I'm wound up tighter than a yo-yo. I've taught my kids that I need time to unwind and relax before I deal with my home and family directly. When I come home, they know to leave me alone for at least half an hour.
There is only one thing you should do with stress. Get rid of it.
Eileen, how do we get rid of stress?
Well, first we need to learn how to relax because this helps us reduce the symptoms of stress that can cause dissension at home.
Well, let's talk about relaxation. What is relaxation?
Relaxation is doing something that you don't have to do but want to do.
It's taking time to unwind and not think about all those things that make you so stressful.
Yes, relaxation can take many forms depending on the individual. Some people relax through physical exercise. Some people find talking out their problems reduces their stress. And other people would prefer to go off by themselves and read a book or a newspaper.
How would relieving a parent's stress help with the children?
Oh, that's a good question. An unstressed parent tends to be a more thoughtful parent. And when we're not preoccupied with our own problems, then we tend to be more attentive and sensitive to our children.
I think the mistake that most of us make is not recognizing that we are feeling stressed or reacting to the stress in our life. Being stressed out is something that is so easily passed over.
That's true. The first thing we need to do is recognize that we're feeling stressed and what that means to us. And if stress makes us feel irritable, then we have to recognize that some of our children's actions may cause us to overreact.
If Stephen could have relieved his stress, he probably wouldn't have reacted to Max's playing with so much anger. He probably would have reprimanded her lightly like Sharon did, and then that probably would have been the end of it.
Could Stephen just tell Max why he was reacting like he did?
Yes,
Elaine?
of course. Explaining the parent's situations to a child calmly and in understandable terms is a very good way to prevent an overreaction, because talking about your stress helps to reduce it, and when children understand what their parents' problems are, they tend to be more cooperative.
You know, Max is an intelligent child, but would she be able to grasp everything?
Well, it's important to be honest with our children, and what we say to them depends on their age and maturity level, and we want to be sure that we're not causing them to worry and have burdens on their shoulders that don't belong there. But at the same time, we need to let children know that they're not responsible for our stress, because children tend to blame themselves for family problems. We also want to make sure that we're not masking our problems, because children sense when we're hiding things from them, and it destroys a sense of trust. So also we have an opportunity then to teach children how to handle anger and anxiety and worry in a positive way, and to let them know that these feelings are sometimes appropriate and normal. Which of the following three choices would be most appropriate for Stephen? Think about how Stephen could respond to Max's behavior in a helpful way. A. Stephen could yell at Max and send her from the table. B. Stephen could have Max clean up the table from her spilt food. C. Stephen could tell Max playing with food is not allowed. If she is not hungry, she can leave the table. D. Stephen could explain his problem and ask for Max's cooperation. B, C, and D are appropriate choices Stephen could have made. You may have additional good ideas as well. A is not the best choice. Stephen is reacting to his own stress and is not teaching the child how she should behave at the table. Let's summarize some of the key ideas from this section. Number 1, learning to recognize that one is under stress is the first step in dealing with it. Number 2, learning to release stress through relaxation is a healthy way of reducing it. Number 3, ignore inappropriate behavior if it is tolerable and not hurting anyone. Praise appropriate behavior. Number 4, be honest with your child. Communicating causes of parental stress is a good way to prevent a conflict and encourages the child to cooperate. Number 5, if a behavioral issue is important to you, set limits on it and follow through with consequences if those limits are breached. Sharon, Stephen, shall we revisit the scene and apply what we've learned?
Yes.
Is that you, Stephen?
Who else?
What's the matter with you?
I'm sorry. It's just that I've had a lousy day. There was a mistake on an order. I had to cover all day for it. I didn't get any of my own work done, and to top it off, the guy we just hired got sick and went home.
Do you want to have dinner later so you can relax?
Actually, I'm hungry.
If you spill your food, you still have to eat it. Please, don't play with your food, Max.
Max, honey, your mother told you not to play with your food like that. Look, I've had a really hard day at work and I'm really tired and it's made me a little irritable. Do you know what that means?
No.
It means that little things that shouldn't make me mad do make me mad. It's not your fault that I'm irritable, but right now, it bothers me that you're playing with your food and not eating it. I'd like you to eat your food and not play with it, okay?
Okay.
After dinner, we'll clean up and do the dishes, and then we'll go read your favorite storybook, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Let's finish our dinner, and we'll have a little fun later on, okay?
Okay.
Sharon and Steve, how did you feel?
Much better.
I feel much better, too. I now see how I can gain control over my own stress and explain calmly to Max what I want her to do. Max felt better, too, because before, she didn't understand why it was that I was getting so angry.
Let's take a look at a scene in which a child's stressful situation becomes an opportunity for parental intervention.
Mama, can we watch TV for a little while before bed?
Rena, I'm really, really tired and I have to go to bed. You know how early I have to wake up.
Uh-huh.
Besides, what could you possibly want to watch at this hour? There aren't any cartoons. Good night.
Good night. Mama,
What's the matter?
can we leave the hallway light on?
Why?
I don't like the dark.
There's nothing to be afraid of in this house, Rena. You shouldn't be afraid. Go to sleep.
I can't sleep.
Why?
It's too dark. I'm scared.
There's nothing in the dark. Go to sleep.
But it's too dark.
Rena, I told you I'm really, really tired, and you know how early I have to wake up. You're a big girl now, and you shouldn't be a scaredy cat. There's nothing in the dark and nothing to be afraid of. So you go to your room and go to sleep right now.
Arazu was tired and sleeping, and Rena was afraid of the dark. Rena was looking for reassurance from her mother, and Arazu told her not to be afraid, and that was it. Let's take a moment to think about the following questions. How did Arazu's actions affect Rena's fear? What could Arazu have done differently? And what would you have done if this was your child in the exact same situation? Okay, how did Arazu handle the situation?
I think she handled it right. She told the kid there's nothing to be afraid of.
That's right. I'm a policewoman, and I don't think Rena should grow up being afraid. Certainly not of the dark.
So you wanted to teach her not to be afraid, sort of cold turkey?
She'll get used to the dark and realize there's nothing to be afraid of.
Well, Arazu seems to have a straightforward approach to dealing with this kind of situation. Does anyone agree?
I agree. I think that children should be taught to be unafraid and assertive right from the very start. I mean, life is tough enough as it is, you know, without having to grow up being scared of every little thing, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Eileen, you know, this sort of no-nonsense approach seems to really get right to the heart of the matter.
Well, in this situation, we have to differentiate. Being upfront about your beliefs is helpful because the child doesn't become confused. But what has to be addressed in this case is that your child was feeling very stressed because she was afraid, and she was afraid to go to sleep.
Well, can we talk about fear in children for a moment?
Yeah, well, fear is very common and very normal in young children, and it is a primary source of stress for them.
And Eileen, are there natural fears that are present in children, or how do they come up?
Well, for young children, many things may cause fear, but it helps to remember that they do come and go.
When I was a child, I felt a lot of stress because my parents divorced. I was really, really scared.
Oh yes, there are many sources of stress in children besides fear of the dark or fear of monsters, and they may be due to family problems such as yours with separation, divorce, or it could be death in the family, abuse, or it could be outside the home such as school problems or problems with friends. But a fear of loss or abandonment may be an underlying stressor in many of these events.
Can we as parents play a role in possibly minimizing the developing fears that our children may have right now, or should we just wait until the fear develops and then deal with it then?
Well, again, we have to help children to understand that their fears are normal and they can be overcome. But we can't be so overprotective that we don't expose the children to the world. But there are some steps we can take to minimize the effects of fear.
Yes.
How? How do we do that?
Well, when a fear does develop, respect your child's feelings and reassure her that she can learn to deal with her fear and that when she's older, she won't feel so afraid.
I think Arazu could get a nightlight or perhaps leave the hall light on with the door open.
That's what my mom and dad did.
Well, that's an excellent idea. And once she feels comfortable and secure, she won't feel she needs the light anymore. However, I'd like to caution that when our children are fearful, that we should not overreact, because that doesn't teach the child how to deal with the fear, but it may make it worse.
Yeah, I think I understand. When my child overcomes a fear, I tell him I'm proud, or how proud I am of how grown up he's getting.
That's excellent, because often a child's fear seems irrational to a parent. But the fear is very real to the child. So we need to understand that we should never shame the child or the fear, and that we instead try to give the child a lot of affection and love and build up her self-esteem, and have fun with your child. Find things to do together that you both enjoy, and this helps alleviate some stress, at least temporarily.
That's a lot to remember.
Yes, it is, but the key idea is to be respectful and caring.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground, so shall we review?
Which of the following 3 choices would be most appropriate for Arazu? Think about why these choices would help Rena learn how to deal with fears. A. Arazu could acknowledge Rena's fears and try to find out the underlying cause. B. Arazu could tell Rena to be a big girl and to go to sleep. C. Arazu could buy a nightlight and reassure her child she will be there to keep her safe. A and C are appropriate choices Arazu could have made. You may have additional good ideas as well. B is not the best choice because Rena will not be taught to deal with her fear and will feel insecure. Let's summarize some of the key ideas from this section. Number 1, understand that your child's fear is real to him or her. Number 2, encourage your child to talk about his or her feelings. Number 3, children who are fearful or are feeling stressed need a lot of love and support. Number 4, help your children to understand the cause of their fears or stress. Assure them that their feelings are normal. Arazu, shall we revisit the scene and apply what we've learned?
Sure.
Mama, can we watch TV for a little while before bed?
Rena, I'm really, really tired and I have to go to bed. You know how early I have to wake up. Besides, what could you possibly want to watch at this hour? There aren't any cartoons. Good night.
Good night. Mama,
What's the matter?
can we leave the hallway light on?
Why?
I don't like the dark.
There's nothing to be afraid of in this house, Rena. You shouldn't be afraid. Go to sleep.
I can't sleep.
Why?
It's too dark. I'm scared.
Come here. You know what? It's okay to be scared. But you should realize there's nothing in the dark, okay? There's nothing to be afraid of.
Why can't we leave the hallway light on?
We'll figure something out. Let's go to your room. Nothing in here. Nothing in here except your shoes. Tell you what. We'll leave the hall light on and we'll leave the door cracked open. Will that be okay?
Will you leave your door open too?
Yes. Rena, remember that even with the doors closed, I'm right in the next room, and that I love you, and that I won't let anything happen to you. Now, if we get a little light, a little night light for your room tomorrow, can we leave the hall light off?
Tomorrow?
Tonight, we'll leave the hall light on and my door cracked open. But tomorrow, we'll get you light.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night.
Arazu, how do you feel?
I feel I really understand that Rena's fear was very stressful for her. I found a way to help her deal with her stress that made her feel she can cope in a healthy way.
Thank you. Let's summarize the ideas covered in this program. Number 1, recognize your own stress. Number 2, release parental stress through relaxation. Number 3, be honest. Explain the causes of parental stress appropriately for the age and development of the child. Number 4, set limits on behavior and apply consequences when necessary, but show appreciation for appropriate behavior. Number 5, accept the child's feelings. Number 6, show affection and love to your child. Number 7, have fun with your child to alleviate stress on both parent and child. Number 8, show respect for the child's feelings and fears. These 8 points can help you deal with stress in your own life and in the life of your child. Try to keep these points in mind when you make choices regarding your children. An excellent way to implement what we've learned is to keep a daily journal. Write down when you feel stress, how it affects you, and how you manage it. Also, write down what causes your child to feel stress and what you do to help him and how he responds to your effort.
We hope that watching this video will help you with your own children. And we look forward to working with you again on our next episode of The Now and Future Parent.